How do you feel?
I'm fine. Dad says I should go to school.
7 students confirmed with measles, 4 others possible.
How? They had to have been vaccinated.
These moms never vaccinated their kids and lied about it. Vaccines are harmful.
You are endangering the health of every child in this city.
Liv, no, it's turning blue.
Call 911.
Every year in the 20th century, approximately 500,000 children died because of the measles alone. Later, in 1963, a measles vaccination was introduced, and the mortality rate was reduced by 99% in the United States. But some people are still hesitant towards vaccination. There's a small group of people that believe that vaccinations are extremely harmful and can cause autism and even birth defects. Another minority group believes that the government is getting too involved in their personal health when it comes to vaccinations. Because of these misconceptions, we set out to inform our society why vaccinations are not only safe and reliable, but necessary for the common good of public health. But first, before we find out more about why people choose not to get vaccinated, we must first understand the background information. Devin Penn, one of our team members, reached out to her cousin, Sandy Roberts. Sandy is a pediatric nurse in the state of Kentucky. We were able to get a better grasp on vaccination and its importance by talking with her on the matter.
Vaccinations are important because they basically put up a defense in your body that will help you, one, fight the disease or virus if you were to get infected. They also help protect for other people. Say you're young and you get the flu and the older person isn't vaccinated, or you're vaccinated and they're not, it would not be as bad on you if you were to catch the disease or the virus. Vaccinations are very important to help fighting off disease. It's a good way to lessen the symptoms if you were to get sick versus not having them.
Okay, and would those be easier to manage? Had people gotten vaccinated?
Well, it goes back again as if people were vaccinated, you would be less likely to show symptoms of that disease or bacteria. But because people aren't vaccinating their kids, you're having more cases come up of, especially pertussis, but measles as well. This question is kind of tricky because I believe it comes all back down to choice. I chose to vaccinate my children, one, just because if they were to catch the bacteria or virus, whichever it would be, that their symptoms would be less, and they would be more likely, or they would be less likely to pass it on to somebody else that maybe wasn't vaccinated. I know that in past things have been stopped from spreading because they have mandated vaccinations for different particular diseases or viruses. So.
Now that our team has a better understanding of the science behind vaccination, we set out to learn what students at the University of Kentucky thought about the matter. I interviewed a chemical engineering student named Nathan Justice, who had many good points on why vaccinations should be mandatory.
Other than soreness, no, not usually. Whenever I got my hepatitis vaccine, I remember that one being a little rough just because I got a little sick afterwards, and nobody could tell if it was the vaccine or if it was just a random cold that I had gotten. But side effects, no, not usually. None that a lot of people say that you get.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about the sickness that you got after it.
It was actually the exact same symptoms as food poisoning.
Yeah,
so
okay.
That's why it was like kind of up in the air if it was the vaccine or if it was just something bad I ate, because fever and sick to my stomach, a lot of like some vomiting, but past that it wasn't really anything serious. My overall consensus about vaccines is I definitely think they should be required. They're definitely good. They were created to help people. They were created to keep away. Originally, they were created to keep away things like measles, Black Plague, different things like this that
Yeah.
have almost been eradicated now because of vaccinations. And whenever people look at, different data on the spikes in measles and now like the Black Plague and things like that, is because the whole thing where people don't want to get vaccinated because of different religious reasons or different conspiracy reasons or things like that. But whenever you actually look at it, it makes a lot more sense to get vaccinated than it does to just hope. The issue with if I would let them go to school with somebody else that's not vaccinated is it's not my kid. And I'm not going to hinder my kid's education just because of another parent's choices. So the good thing about vaccines is even if another kid's not vaccinated, my kid still has a better chance of surviving through whatever sickness it is if they got vaccinated for that thing. So I would give my kids the vaccinations, and I would suggest to the other parent to get the vaccinations and show them reasons why vaccinations is way better than not being vaccinated. But past that, there's nothing I can really do about that, and I'm not going to hinder the education of my kid for somebody else.
Okay, so you believe in individual rights when it comes to vaccination, is what?
I do, to an extent. I think that kids should get vaccinated, but if, because it's not a law right now, because it's not required, then no, I wouldn't, make my kid go, or make my kid not be able to go. But if it was required, then I would say something, because there's a difference between individual liberties and, the betterment of everybody.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What do you say to those who believe vaccination has a correlation with autism?
Actually, my grandpa is he is a nurse that graduated from UK, and he does all kinds of crazy research into these things. Whenever you look at autism and vaccines, way back whenever vaccines first became a thing, yes, they did have a link. There was links between autism, and there was links between mental retardation and all these different things where, it was because vaccines were in trial periods. But now, if you look at them, vaccines don't have that much correlation with autism or with anything that people, there's one disease that my mom's always worried about me getting, and it's basically constant degradation in your motor movements. You gradually have paralysis go throughout your body, and it's been linked with hepatitis A, vaccines, and it's been linked with a couple other vaccines. And people, it's sort of like whenever you take a pill, and it's it can also have all these different side effects. It's because 1 in a million people had that side effect, you have to put it on the bottle. Yeah, exactly. So I think whenever people say autism is linked to vaccines, they don't look at the background of that person. So maybe it can be linked way back when, but nowadays it's really rare for that to happen.
Our next student interview was conducted by Louisa. She interviewed her boyfriend, who was able to provide an insight on vaccination as a non-US native.
Yes, I remember getting vaccination as a child. They probably talked about, my parents talked about it with me, not really the nurse, and they probably explained me what the goal was, and then the nurse would just... I don't think I've ever had any side effects other than my arm was hurting or anything like that. I don't think I've ever suffered any side effects. For vaccinations, because I think there is a really important role they play in combating diseases. Yeah, I will let my children go to school with unvaccinated children, as long as they are vaccinated and this is not posing any risk to them. On the other hand, if I know some vaccines have an age limit, and you can only be vaccinated if you're older than 5 years old or anything like that, and my children cannot be vaccinated, then in that case I think I might reconsider just because of the risk. I think it depends. I don't think there should be regulation on vaccines if it's related only to someone's life. So if it's their choice to not be vaccinated, and even if that's going to affect them negatively, then I don't think there's a point in regulating how much they should vaccinate them. However, if, like in the case I mentioned before, whenever you have like an age limit or anything that's like impacting other people, and the fact that you're going to be vaccinated is going to make someone else safe and they don't have the option to be vaccinated, then I think that's a place where regulation can have a positive impact. My community is pro-vaccine. I would say that just because I've never heard anyone talking against regulation, against forcing vaccines or regulating them.
Com o aumento do número de casos de autismo, começou em 1998, quando um pesquisador inglês divulgou o trabalho dele fazendo esse tipo de relação. Posteriormente mostrou que vários dados da pesquisa deles foram adulterados, foram manipulados para chegar a essa conclusão. Além disso, posteriormente conseguiu-se comprovar que ele recebia dinheiro de escritórios de advocacia que mantinham um processo de indenização contra a indústria farmacêutica. Ele teve seu diploma cassado, foi processado e inclusive o trabalho dele teve que ser apagado dos arquivos da revista Lancet, que foi a revista que publicou esse trabalho. Além disso, houve um pesquisador americano que fez uma relação do uso de timerosal. O timerosal é um derivado do mercúrio, é um antibactericida usado como conservante nas vacinas, principalmente nos frascos de vacina multidose, que é aqueles frascos que vêm várias doses para vacinar vários pacientes ao mesmo tempo. Com relação ao timerosal, já caiu por terra isso, o timerosal foi tirado da fórmula na Dinamarca, foi proibido o uso do timerosal, bem como, acho que desde 2000 também foi proibido no estado da Califórnia, e o que se evidenciou que houve até um aumento do número de casos de autismo de lá para cá, o que joga por terra essa afirmação. Essa é uma questão bastante polêmica, pelo seguinte: tudo bem que as pessoas, o governo não possa talvez interferir na liberdade das pessoas de decidir sobre a vida delas, mas também o governo tem uma responsabilidade, principalmente com o coletivo, porque quando a gente aumenta o número de pessoas suscetíveis ao vírus, a gente corre o risco de perder imunidade coletiva. Uma pessoa com a doença, ela pode contaminar até 10. E o medo dos pais por possíveis efeitos adversos da vacina, ele não pode se sobrepor ao perigo muito mais grave da doença em si. O sarampo, por exemplo, ele é um grande causador de morte, de cegueira, de surdez. Então, aqui se tem uma responsabilidade com relação a isso.